rapper. The camera.
Ready.
Camera operator? I think so, yeah.
We're good.
Mm-hmm. Don't take it, please. Today's theme of the day is our toastmaster family. We have different types of families. We have the Simpsons family, the Mafia family, and even the Kardashian family. But the Toastmasters family, we're nothing like any of the above. We're a group that encourages and supports each other, and we grow and learn from each other. And we do that by presenting speeches and doing the evaluation, and we learn from our mistakes, and we become better public speakers and leaders. Introducing, I'm going to start the speaking segment, introducing our first speaker. Our first speaker thinks that most...
Can we hear his objective?
Oh, yes, we should do that. Thomas, could you please provide the objective for Wesley?
Absolutely. Wesley is on Project 3, Get to the Point. His objectives: select a speech topic and determine the general and specific purposes. For example, inform, persuade, entertain, or inspire. Organize the speech in a manner that best achieves those purposes. Make sure you have a beginning, body, and conclusion to reinforce your purpose. He's going to project sincerity and conviction and control any nervousness he may feel with his yell. And he's going to strive not to use no. 5 to 7 minutes.
Our first speaker thinks that most people do not take the time to think about how easy life is now compared to how it was 100 years ago. Wesley is going to grab us by the collar, not literally, and for a moment, make us pause and look at how things have changed over time. Please welcome Wesley Howell.
Good morning. Technology over the years, say last 100 years, has moved at an astounding rate. My grandfather Howell, born in 1899. When he was born, the basic mode of transportation that they had was the horse and buggy. The automobile was invented in 1886, but Henry Ford didn't introduce the Model T until 1908. And my grandfather lived in a small town in North Florida, so I'm sure the first automobiles weren't in the area at the time. So horse and buggy was mainly what they had. They did have the trains, but that was, if you were going long distance, primarily the horse and buggy. So he went from a horse and buggy in his lifetime. He died in 1978. So at that time, you could get in your car, easily drive 60, 70 miles. You could drive 80 miles an hour. They put a strain on the car. And so he went from a horse and buggy to automobiles where you could drive pretty fast. That was a huge leap. They also saw the introduction of the telephone. The telephone was the first patent by Alexander Graham Bell was in 1876. But in North Florida, I'm sure if they had a telephone, it was probably the one that was mounted to the wall, and you had a hand piece, and you had the crank and things like that. So he saw telephones progress from that to being able to pick up one sitting right next to your easy chair and call somebody all the way across the world and speak to them as if they were in the next room. He saw the invention of the radio, the telephone, the washing machine, television. He saw introduction of the airplane, the Wright brothers in 1903 flew the first motorized airplane. Well, it progressed from there to, in 1914, I believe, was the First World War started. They actually had fighters, used them in the war. They had aircraft that could carry a couple of people. So they went from that quickly to larger aircraft with multiple engines, huge propellers that could fly passengers all the way across the ocean to deliver them to another country. Then he saw the invention of the jet aircraft after World War II, and then rockets that could fly a person from Earth to the moon, and he actually got out of the rocket and walked on the moon. Can you imagine someone that was born in a time when they had the horse and buggy to seeing somebody land on the moon? Now, there were people, I remember people back in the 80s talking to me and saying, yeah, my grandparents or my parents, whatever, still believed that that was a hoax. Believed that it was created in a Hollywood movie. Because to them, it was such a huge leap. They couldn't really fathom that much progress, or actually being able to fly to the moon. That was pretty amazing. So think about our lifetime, what we have seen. I was born in 1960. Now, we did have cars. And they would go pretty fast. They were some of the muscle cars in the 60s. But the comparison of the cars now, what we have and the ones they had then, I mean, 100,000 miles on a car back then was, it was pretty much wore out. Now, people talk about 300,000, 400,000. You can get in your car and you cruise at 80 miles an hour easily. And it's not where this strain on your wrist. But the major technological advances in our lifetime has been through electronics, through computers. Most people don't stop to realize that the computing power that we can hold in our hands now in a smartphone. We used to take a room full of computers to generate that much computing power. That's a huge leap. Computers are in cars now, and England and Singapore are in the forefront of developing computer technology and automobiles, so that in 5 to 7 years, cars in these countries will be able to communicate with them. So if there's an accident miles down the road, your car will automatically know it and be able to reroute you to avoid the traffic. Amazon and Google are already working on cars that can be driverless cars. So one day you'll be able to get in your car, put in your destination, sit back and read a book, and your car will, hopefully all this, see that. How many remember the TV show with David Hasselhoff, with the car that could talk and yeah. One day it'll be true. Hopefully your car will be talking back. One day we'll be transporting like Star Trek, from the mothership to Earth, or from one country to another. Could happen. One day you may go on a weekend trip to the moon, stay on a resort, be able to sit on a patio underneath a transparent geometric dome, staring out up at the stars and the Earth. Can you imagine? Hoping that a piece of space dust comes crashing through. Technological progress moves at an increasingly rapid rate. And sometimes you need to stop and think about how amazing progress is. Thank you.